The topic I was asked to talk about was what's happening in the world of analytics and what's happening to the role of the Chief Marketing Officer and the dramatic changes that are underway right now in that space. The perfect storm of big data and cheap technology and new ways of analytics combined with the way consumers are able to connect with brands and the technology that they have in their own possession is changing the game. The confusion of where to chase consumers and how to communicate with them, how to engage with them, has never been more complex. So what we've been focused on at MarketShare has been creating essentially a navigation system called the MarketShare Decision Cloud, and that is designed to help CMOs and their teams understand where their next dollar or euro or yen should go, how to allocate their money across brand versus product marketing versus TV or social or digital or in-store promotion, trade incentives and things like that. And the idea is, how do we move beyond very simple things like media mix models or digital attribution and start to move to a much more sophisticated, predictive platform that helps companies make better decisions. How do you make better decisions around where should I spend my money? How do I prove what is working to my executive management team? How do I build out technology for my company now that we have more data coming in than we ever have? So the challenges for CMOs are growing, but technology and better analytics are here to help. I think the recipe for marketing really depends on the business goals, depends on the company, depends on the country, depends on the consumer's level of sophistication. One thing I do know that's universal is that it is a combination of activities that influences a consumer to make a purchase. It's not one thing, it's not two things. It has to include brand equity. It has to include great product. If you've got bad product, the word spreads quickly. You can't spend your way out of marketing a bad product. The importance for marketers now to understand, how do I embrace this data that's available? How do I turn it into decision-making tools is critical. What we're finding is most companies are still relying on methods of measurement and analysis that are 20, 30, 40 years old that today are simply irrelevant. The ways of traditional measurement, like doing simple media mix models or doing digital attribution or doing research panels, it misses the opportunity of capturing that data and creating actual true predictability. So I want to be able to sit on a train and get a text saying, log in and see how you're doing against your plan real time. See what's happening, get recommendations of what needs to be fixed, and click and do it. So in 3 clicks, you can completely course correct your total marketing allocations real time, as opposed to, let's go create a plan, let's go get 20 or 30 people involved, let's go spend 6 months trying to figure this out. We can now do it in essentially 3 or 4 clicks. So that's changing quickly. Analytics has moved from being a nice to have to a need to have in this era of complexity.
But how does actually data enrich this enhance this analytics? I mean, is it how does it exactly work? Do you try something and then you see after an hour, okay, this will work, and we go for that way, or how does the process work?
Yeah, it's very important to embrace not only the notion of building predictive models, but then also having those connect into a test and learn platform. The ability to shorten the options and then put it into market and test and validate the models in market based on the great consumer jury, see how they vote, and then take those results and put them back into the model, and then it becomes a virtuous cycle of modeling, predictive analytics, to test and learn, to results analysis and attribution, back into the models. One thing that you need to also understand in these models is the long-term brand equity effects. Brand matters, and understanding that value of the precise brand effect, and a dollar spent or a euro spent today in marketing is having a long-term effect in terms of building, hopefully, in terms of building brand equity. And that has to be contemplated into the planning and into the analysis, and oftentimes it's not. So what we see is marketers tend to be, if they're only operating in a test and learn environment, they're putting something out, they're looking at immediate click-through behavior, and then they're making judgments on that. And that's just wrong, it's too simplistic. The reality is that money invested is having a long-term investment downstream that needs to be contemplated in the analysis. So it's a combination of bringing the latest in science, all this data together, and also an environment for experimentation and rapid testing, rapid failure, rapid success. I feel like we're at the very, very beginning of companies moving from a pure gut and intuition based decision-making process to what I call the decision economy. We're moving from this attention economy where the currency has been rating points and awareness and other soft metrics to the decision economy that is linked to sales and P&L impact. So we can start making decisions based on real business impact as opposed to soft metrics. That's a big change for our industry. It's a very, very big change for marketing, media, and technology and consumers. We're also at the beginning of consumer empowerment, where they are going to continue to create more walls to manage their own inundation. Consumers love tools like Google Maps that you type in where you want to go, and it gives you 3 options, and it tells you which one is faster, and it helps you make decisions. And what MarketShare is doing is simply doing that for marketers. We're helping marketers make better decisions in this era of increased complexity. I know that this is also just the beginning of data volume and complexity too. We are only going to see more and more data. You think about sensors and all the other data sources that are flying into the offices of marketers. It's only going to get more intense. I look at my analogy is the airline business. The jet engines now generate 5,000 data points a second. Every plane generates about a terabyte of data per flight. But you don't see the number of pilots grow from 2 to 100 in the cockpit to deal with all this influx of information. You see it actually reducing. And I think technology has been critical to help the airline industry and pilots cope with that volume of information. Their brains have not evolved at the same velocity as the data volume has evolved. So I see the same thing happening in marketing and in business in general, is we're going to have to use and rely on technology in a much bigger way. That's the beginning this is the beginning of where we're going in terms of data-driven decision making. I think the issue of privacy is going to continue to be obviously very sensitive. It seems to vary by culture too. It also varies by demography. It feels like the younger generations have started to figure out that there's value in their data, that there's value exchange to be had. If by sharing information, you get something. And I think that we're going to continue to see that. We're going to continue to see consumers get much, much more savvy about how to leverage their information, but also to set constraints on what they're willing to share. I think what we can find with analytics is you can actually do a lot of analytics without personally identifiable information. You can actually call what I call headless data. You can actually look at patterns and information and still derive lots of value about how you should allocate your resources, but without actually having to know that it was you or me doing it. You can look at it as a group and then make better decisions that way. So I think it continues to be an issue. I think that our industry is going to have to be, I'd say, more proactive than probably they have been historically. As the volume of data increases, so will the issue of privacy, and that we have to be very respectful of that. It's similar to Uber. The technology has grown and the consumer demand has grown faster than the antiquated laws have been able to keep up with technology. And that's something that I think we are going to have to continue to press our lawmakers to continue to try to be as forward-thinking and as proactive as possible, because we will see consumer demand for new technology and we'll see marketer demand for new technology oftentimes outpace and oftentimes challenge the status quo, challenge the the cartels that have a very big vested interest in certain things. And that's all going to change. We're seeing this mass democratization of information, of access to just-in-time knowledge that is changing the game in a big way. And I think politicians and businesses are going to have to deal with that. I heard about DLD, and I've heard about it over the past few years, but I finally got convinced that this is something that I should come and do. And I've been very impressed with the event. It's very well done. The quality of speakers and attendees is very impressive. It's truly international, and I'm looking forward to participating in many more.